Hello everyone, this is Jimmy Cultist, back again with another stealth tutorial, and today we are covering going prone, also known as crawling in some parlors. But, yes, all we're gonna need for this is a chip. It's a lot more simplistic than what we did before, which was sidling. It's just crawling on the ground, and you might think it was complicated. I must admit that when I initially started doing Dreams, the concept of crawling seemed pretty difficult, but that's because there's a few tricky things that you can compensate for and fix yourself that they don't exactly make obvious to you. Actually don't even know if there's a tutorial on crawling per se. Oh wait a minute, we don't want this, sorry. We want the calculator here. And we want it set to greater than 0.25. Now why are we doing this? Well, it's because I intend to use the the L2 button. And the L2 button has a percentage from 0 to 100%. And if you're only holding it lightly, it won't be powering this thing on completely. So basically the calculator makes sure that it has an exact input. Make sure that it's on if you're just holding it at a certain pressure. 25% is pretty light, so you should be able to crawl even if you're not holding it down, you know, completely. But L2 is our button of choice, and now let's take out this. And we're going to go to the puppet interface and go to velocity and stick it in our little node there. And we're going to make our initial pose. For this, we may need to distance our character from the wall. This is going to be his crawling pose. I should say his idle crawling pose. And it will be just a little bit awkward getting things into place. And a good idea if you're trying to get poses to look right, like if you're not quite getting the right pose you want, I strongly advise using some sort of reference point. Even if it requires that you get down on the floor yourself, you know, just find out what would be an awkward or comfortable position for a human being or a skeleton to crawl, you know. I'm going to have the right leg just a little bit up. A little bit further up than the other one. I think that's a pretty decent crawl pose. And we're going to go ahead and turn it on, and we're also going to name it Pose. And we're going to need a new collision shape, which, you know, this little thing here is kind of like a collision shape. But for this, we're going to need a long collision shape. Otherwise, his face will stick into the wall, and we don't really want that. At least I would assume you don't want it. In professional video games, they rarely allow the character to crawl with their face in the wall. I mean, there might be a few examples that contradict that, but I certainly haven't seen them. I played a lot of old games too, so it's not exactly a recent discovery of man. Let's turn off luminoise, just to make it look pretty, and the color amount. And we're going to make it invisible, label it friend, and label it so it doesn't collide with friend. And it doesn't collide with, well, we'll leave it so it does collide with unlabeled. We don't know if we might need that later. Imp interaction, blood, keep that off. Physics should probably stay medium because this is going to be colliding with things. Alright. We are going to want to turn off our normal collidability, but we'll get into that in just a little bit. Oh, actually, you will want to turn off collidability for our secondary box. And I'll explain why later. Let's also loosen the detail, because it's not really going to be seen by anybody. But the collidability is going to want to be off, because we are going to be turning it back on again with a keyframe. And shutting off the collidability of the other one. We're also going to want to turn off its friendliness, so that the enemy won't see. And I think that should do nicely. We're going to want to shut off these two, unfortunately. And we're going to want to shut off procedurals, because they can really interfere with this sort of thing. And we're also going to be changing our puppet's overall collision shape, which happens in here. This is the built-in collision shape, unlike the synthetic ones that we've created. Pull it down here, make it kind of short. You got to be careful with the collision shape because it can cause things to get a little bit messed up. We're going to add power to this, and we're going to call it parameters. Oh, that's not... You don't spell parameters with an A. Well, you do, but, I mean, you spell it P-A-R-A, not P-A-R-E, as I did. Alright, there we go. Parameters. And the next thing we're going to want to do is put down a little keyframe. Now, what's this going to do? Well, I'll explain. Going to put down a timeline, set it to loop, and turn off its power. Then we're going to turn on the power with the keyframe we just created. And I suppose you could call this keyframe power. And make it so that it has a little bit of slow power up and a little bit of slow power down. And connect our handy node, which connects to the velocity of our puppet. Now, we're going to put down a keyframe. Before we do that, though, we're going to dupe out this one, which is the pose. We're going to go to this keyframe again and shut this off. So basically... Oh, wait a minute. Made a mistake right there. Don't change the color unless you want to confuse yourself. I meant to change the color of this one. So basically what this is going to do is once we start crawling, we're going to have velocity. Velocity is going to turn on the keyframe, which is going to power this on gradually, which might create a transition between animations and make it look more pretty, you know what I mean? And this is going to turn off the pose, which means we can have a nice little crawl animation if we want to. We are going to change the animation a little bit, I think. Let's make it so he's extending his hand, like so. And make that leg straighten out a bit. Don't forget to set it to linear blend. That's what we're going to be doing today, folks. This animation is probably going to be a little bit simplistic because I'm mostly just going for quick and easy, you know, gratification, as it were. I just want to show you the basics. But you could probably make something a lot more fantastic yourself, you know, like animation-wise. And we're gonna stretch this leg out. Oh. Also kind of put him down a little bit so that it's sort of like he's hobbling around. Alright, I think that should do nicely, and we're just going to copy this one little frame here. Not sure what this is going to look like in practice. Probably not superb, but it is functional. Main thing is the mechanic itself, because I feel like animation is something you can kind of mess around with. I often have to do a lot of experimentation. Now the movement is ridiculous, but he is moving. He is crawling like we want him to. The thing we forgot to do was here in parameters, we're going to shut off his run speed to 0. And that should mean that he'll crawl nice and slow. And he collides with the wall, so that's pretty good. And as a little demonstration, I would like to show you, because there's a common problem in Dreams, which I'll give you a comparison, because I want to show you about this. It's something that always annoyed me. I want to show you how we've corrected that issue. But usually when you try to crawl in one of these small spaces, you know, something like that, for instance, we're going to copy this out, turn that one off. This is just for the purpose of demonstration. You'll notice these that we corrected earlier. Let's see what it would be like if we didn't actually change them during our crawl state. You'll notice how we're kind of hung up in there and we can't proceed. That is the whole reason why we changed the puppet's natural collision shape to begin with. Oh, we're still getting hung up. Let's see, probably just made it too wide or something. It's too high, that's what it is. Now it should work. Famous last words. Oh, it works. Anyway, there you go. You can crawl around. Of course, one thing we are going to want to do is get rid of this NOT gate and make sure that R2 makes us crawl the way we want to. It is a little instantaneous and jarring, so it's possible you could add some kind of transitionary phase for crawling. You know, kind of make it a little bit more smooth. Let's go ahead and add that. Why not? I think it's worthwhile to make this look nice. So let's go ahead. Gonna add a selector. And we're gonna add a timeline, set it to play once. Copy the pose, stick it on there like so. And we're going to go ahead and put this in crawl. We're also going to change the nature of this a little bit in terms of we don't want this to be constantly powered off because it's going to need to untransition, and it can't do that if it's powered off. So that's our final pose. This will be our initial starting pose, which will be blank. We'll set it to linear. And we'll just kind of make a little in-between frame of him like crouching or something. Something like this. Should be good. We'll have him like kneeling down. That should be good. Pull him back a little bit too, because I think that also might help with the balance. And we got it set to play once. Another liberty I'm going to take is take this node, delete this wire, stick this in here, stick that in crawl. I think that might work better, just in case we have to shut that off. Now we're going to stick this in B. That should work nice. And we'll call this in. And we're going to copy it out and make another one called out. And we're going to take the B output and stick it in here. Basically what this is going to do, hopefully, if everything goes well, is when this is not active, we're going to detransition out of our animation here. Oh, by the way, minor flaw right there. Lucky we did that, because this needs to be set to linear in. We'll also make out red so they're more clearly distinguished. Another thing you're going to want to do is we don't really want just a sec. Gonna need another node. We don't really want this to be triggered while it's playing, so let's go ahead and take a little keyframe. And it's going to shut off both of these because we really, really do not want, you know, to get stuck in an endless loop, as it were. Same with this one. We're going to go ahead and copy it over here. Alright, now let's try this out. And if I did my homework, we should get in the pose. Now this is kind of strange. Looks a little bit vulgar, not gonna lie, but I think I know what we did wrong. It's because this is applied, I think. We'll go ahead and look at our... put it on wireless, let's see what we get. Not sure why he's going up and down like that. I think it's because he's trying to leave it. Let's go ahead and put this out here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. He's trying to leave it. We aren't putting this far ahead enough. And we also need to put it so that A is hooked up to the power of this. Well, actually, scratch that. What we want is another node like that one with no animations connected to it. And we want to put A in there so that you can't continuously transition. Yeah, that should work nicely. Alright, let's go ahead, turn this back off. Basically, when A is active, you can use this one, and when B is active, you can leave it, so that ought to help a little bit. I also think I might make these quicker, because they're way too short. I mean, slow. That was a tad abrupt. We also want this active, so that when he's, you know, transitioning between the two, his parameters are still being messed with. That way he can't, you know, do weird things. His procedural animations are turned off and all that good stuff. See, that's much better. Now there is one other thing we're going to have to do, and that's when this is active. We want this off, which is why I started that earlier. Basically, we want a smooth transition out, and if all of these parameters we set up earlier are still active as he's leaving, it's going to interrupt his rising animation. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's more natural. You could probably make it look even better if you're like a really talented animator. But that's okay. Hopefully you found that helpful. A little bit of a surprise entry there. I didn't even script that part. But you're welcome. And let's give a monthly shout out. I should say a shout out to our monthly supporters on Ko-fi. There they go. How nice. And that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss another video. If you wish to support our earnest insanity, you can check the links in the description to donate or buy merch. Until next time, goodbye.